What is the ideal percentage of your overall portfolio to have in Roth retirement accounts, traditional retirement accounts, and taxable accounts? That's the question we're going to tackle in today's video. And it came up, I was watching another YouTube channel, The Money Guys Show. Here they are, Brian and Bo. Terrific channel, highly recommend it. I get to see these guys most years at a conference we go to. And this is the very question that they tackled in this video of theirs. I'll leave a link to it below my video. They got this question from a viewer, wanted to know, it should be a third, and third. What should it be? You'll notice their video is called the 3-bucket strategy. How much should you invest in each bucket? Just to be clear, they're not talking about the bucket strategy we've talked about in the past that Harold Avinsky came up, the 2-bucket strategy, the 3-bucket strategy. Their buckets are Roth, traditional, and taxable. That's what they mean, and that's what their video covers. And what I wanted to do in this video is give a slightly different spin on the answer. I think their answer, I don't disagree with anything that they've said. They try to tackle this question. But I want to walk through very quickly four sort of, responses to this question. What is the ideal percentage? To give you some things to think about. So, number one, there is no ideal. It doesn't exist. There is no way to have, say, well, if it's a third, or maybe I want 80% in Roth, or I want, there is no ideal. Now, when we get to retirement, when you're my age, you're older, you probably think I'd like it all in Roth. I mean, why not? At that point, it's all tax-free. Wouldn't that be nice? But the problem is this. When we make a contribution, we've got money to save for retirement. We can put it in a traditional 401k, let's say, or a Roth 401k if your employer offers both. Or I suppose you could bypass the 401k and just put it in a taxable account, right? In understanding what the best option is, it comes down to the total amount of taxes you're going to pay. Of course, if you put it into a Roth 401k, you pay the taxes today, and that's pretty easy to figure out what those taxes would be for you. If you put it in a traditional 401k, and this would be true as well if we're talking about an IRA, you're going to get a tax break today. And again, it's pretty straightforward to figure out what that tax benefit today is. But here's where it gets tricky. You're going to, of course, pay taxes on that money when you pull it out, in many cases, depending on your age, decades later once you retire. And that number is almost impossible to know, right? Because we don't know exactly when you're going to take it out, exactly what your total taxable income will be that year, decades into the future, what the tax brackets will be. You might not even know what your tax filing status will be, or where you're going to live and what your state income tax is going to be. There are a lot of unknowns. Now, if we could imagine a world where we knew all of the answers to those questions, this is now just total make-believe, then we could actually calculate which one is better, traditional or Roth. There would be no set ideal percentage between both of those types of accounts. You'd just calculate for this contribution right now, today, whether a traditional or Roth is ideal. And you would know that. Of course, we don't know the future, and so we have to, and this gets to point 2 in today's video, use rules of thumb. And they're not an exact science. They're a best guess. And that's all we can really do because we don't know the future. And so we use rules of thumb. If you're in the top federal tax bracket and you're in an expensive tax state like New York or California, you're probably going to opt for traditional. Why? Because the tax benefits you get today are very, very good. You're going to save a lot of money today in income tax. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that it will pay off for you, because for all we know, 40 years from now when you retire, tax rates have gone up. We just don't know, but it's the best that we can do with the information we have. And of course, if you're maybe in the lower tax brackets, and particularly if you're in a low income tax state, well, then a Roth probably, there's no guarantees, is the way to go. I tend to think if you're somewhere in the middle, I kind of use the idea of, in baseball, a tie goes to the runner. For me, a tie goes to the Roth. But again, it's just our best guess with the information we have. So I don't think there's an ideal percentage. I don't think it exists. It's based on specific circumstances of each individual when they're making the contributions. Number 2, we can use rules of thumb, but again, they're imperfect, as all rules of thumb are. The third of 4 things that I'll mention is this. A really important strategy for a lot of folks is to do what I'll call Roth conversion ladder. for those that retire before Social Security kicks in. So let's say you retire when you're 55, and maybe you were making a lot of money. Now all of a sudden your income goes way down, and it puts you in a really low income tax bracket. You can use that opportunity if you've got traditional retirement to do a Roth conversion. Of course, once you do that, you've got to wait 5 years to spend the money, but you can do a Roth conversion. Of course, that'll be taxed, but because you're not working and because you're not earning a lot of income, you'll be in the lower tax brackets and can benefit from those lower tax brackets. Again, how much you would convert, you'd want to do a tax analysis to determine what's ideal for you. And in that regard, you can use software like New Retirement, who's a sponsor of this video, and the tool that I use to plan my retirement. They can model that kind of thing for you, or you could talk to a financial advisor if you wanted to. But the point is, when we think about the ideal percentage into those different account types, as I mentioned, there's not only is there no ideal, but whatever's best for you can change over time. So it may have been a good strategy to use traditional retirement to take advantage of the tax breaks if you're in the high tax brackets during your working years. And then once you retire, convert some of that year by year over to a Roth to take advantage of your now lower income tax brackets. And that's a really good strategy, again, if that is your scenario. The final thing I'll mention in terms of, an ideal percentage between the three account types is that sometimes we don't have a choice, right? We may be making contributions to either a Roth or a traditional 401k and an IRA, but eventually we reach the contribution limits. And so if we have more that we want to save, well, guess what? It's got to be in a taxable account. There really isn't a choice. Or maybe you sell an asset. Maybe you've got a business and you sell it and you get a lot of money. Well, that goes into a taxable account. You don't have an option. So yeah, we do have a lot of control over these things and what percentage we put in different account types, but we don't have total control. And sometimes, well, the money's just got to go into a taxable account, or at least at the moment, I think these rules might be changing, but if you have an employer match, at least historically, that's had to go into a traditional 401k, couldn't go into a Roth 401k, even if your contributions were going to the Roth. Again, I think for some people that may be changing under some new tax laws, but the point is we don't have total control over this. So we can control some of it, and that we should figure out and do our best to make our best choices, even with imperfect information. But beyond that, sometimes it's just got to go into a taxable account. So there you go. That's my take on a question that frankly I've received as well. What's the ideal percentage into the three account types? I really don't think there is one. Again, I'll leave a link to the Money Guys video below this video. I encourage you to check it out. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments below. Be happy to help you out any way I can. And until next time, remember, the best thing money can buy is financial freedom.